All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is June 26, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I'm the lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Hey, let's go take a look at some charts today. Had a fantastic day. Let's go take a look at it. This buy missed the all-time high by 91 cents. Thank you. 7 daily goals, Jim. Jim in the room. Hey, I just want to say this. For everybody checking in on us. Jim just made 7 daily goals. I love it. I love that. Well done, Jim. Congrats. Way to go. Hey, I want to congratulate everybody that made money in the room today. You guys did fantastic. You all did fantastic. Today was a nice bullish day. Nice trend day. I mean, we rallied to the high of the day, right up into the end of the day. All right, let's take a look at some charts, see what we got going on here. All right, let's take a look at, the performance. Let's take a look at the performance. All right, so here's the performance. Okay, so that's like a misprint. I don't know why. I was supposed to get filled at 3 cents, and they filled me for, 7,000 shares at 23 cents. So that's really not, it should only be about 20 grand, not 293,000. But somehow I got filled at 23 cents, which is insane. I was supposed to just get filled at like 4 cents. So it would have been like a $14,000 profit on that one. All right. So if you want to see what that looks like with the options on it, you can see there's probably only like one trade, and I'll pop that up for you. Yeah, you can see right there. See this big spike and went up to like 149. Wouldn't that have been crazy if I got filled for 14,000 contracts at $1.52? Yeah, we could all retire if we hit that. Anyways, you can see I bought them right here at 1 penny, and see I got filled for 23 cents. Supposedly, okay, now I was supposed to get filled at 3 cents, okay, so that's really not the number, but still it's a good day, okay. So then we got the 0 DTE 613 calls, okay. I'm just buying every little dip in the market here and selling the rallies, okay. That's basically all I did on that. And I started those after noon when I saw that we were going to have a trend day. And trend day is when you get a 10-minute uptrend between the hours of 11 and noon. All right, 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. So I just said, hey, I'm going to pick up some 0 DTEs and catch a little wave here. And that's what I did on those. So I wound up with you can see a nice pop in those, about 19K. All right, so 610 calls, 1 DTE, 18K on those. Again, I was holding some of those from yesterday. Not a lot, but some. All right, again, buying the dips and taking that 10-minute ride up out of the opening box. You got the first 15 minutes right here, blocked it off, and you can see price action ripped up over the top of that VWAP. And I just sold those into strength. Okay, sold calls into strength with those. All right, so there was 18K on that. 615 4 DTE calls. Okay, what do we got here? Again, same thing. I'm buying the dips and selling the rallies. Okay, about 7K there. 615 strike, 7 DTE calls, about 4K there. Again, selling the rallies. All right, you can see the red dots are right up there, almost at the peak of all of these candle bars, right there. Next one, 616, 1 DTE. Now I picked these up. Believe it or not, I said, hey, the market's bullish. All right, I didn't pick these up till like 3 o'clock. Or 2:30. Market's bullish. I said, hey, I'm buying some of these. 1 DT 616 calls. for tomorrow, because we're still bullish. There's no sign of the bears anywheres. So it rode that rally up into the close. You can see we got this last minute spike. I able to capture about 4K on that one. Let's go to the next one. All right, got some 1 DTE, 616 calls. We already did those. Got some 4 days till expiration, 625 calls. Got about 3,500 on those. You can see just bought the dip, sold the rallies up. You can see when the ticks increased way up there, price went up, and I sold into those rallies up there. 1950, about 1900 there on some 0 DTE, 615 calls. Again, I had to sit in that one for a while. Loaded up on those at noon and then got rid of them in the afternoon. Okay, so those are 615. I really like to get some more of those. Oh, those are zeros. Okay, 625, 7 days till expiration, about 500 on those. Okay, you can see I'm just selling the rallies and buying the dips. Had a 10-minute uptrend almost all day long. All right, so I'm buying the bottoms of the candles and selling the tops of those candles. 630, 50 days till expiration, 134 on those. I already had them, so I was just unloading those into the peaks. I had one left. I'm not ready to dump it yet, so I still have it. I was looking for a pullback to reload, never got it. Again, same thing here on these 35 DTE 640 calls. All right, 640 strike, 35 days out. Just selling into the opening rally up. Didn't know if we were going to go past 610.76, and then of course we did. We started melting up on those. Okay, 635, 22 DTE, 72 on those. Again, I was holding those. I bought some on the dip yesterday when price dipped. The day before, a lot of these 50 days till expiration, 35 days, 22, 15, 29. I bought those on the dip for price. Price was bullish because it consolidated over to the right all day, looking for a pop-up, and we got nice pop-up on that. All right, so that's it. All the other ones I made made good on. I had some Sega calls, made 10 on those, just 10. All right, Sega's looking good if you look at the chart of Sega. Intel, made good on some Intel calls. Got about 3,500 on some Intel calls, trading those. What are we down to? Oh, my position's back to 800. All right, I love it. Okay, so made good on some Intel calls. And what else did I get? That's it. Some more, 10 more on some other Intel calls. Okay, and silver. Made 169 on some silver calls. So nice little monster day for me. All right, a lot of guys in the room, traders, girls and guys. Okay, we got all kinds in here. Made some good profits today. I'm just going to tell you, they did well today here in the BYOB Trading Room. So if you're sitting on the sidelines out there in cyberland, digital land, you're missing some opportunity to be in a nice proactive trading room. And we had a measured move right here. We measured off the move, 612.35. You can see we got a nice bingo into the close right there at closing time. And that was the measured move. And it's been sitting up there for about 3 hours since I measured it off, and traders saw the bullishness and they're buying calls. You can see Jim nailed about 7 daily goals. Imagine moving your account up 7% in just one day. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. If you did that day after day, imagine how fast you could double your money. All right, so there you go. Measured move, bingo, 612.35. All right. Let's move all of this out of the way and let's look at the charts, okay? I'm going to pick up a cleaner one because this just has too much traffic going on, okay? Little too much traffic. All right, let's zoom in. First thing, 10-minute chart. All right, let's look at this. 10-minute, what do I trade? I say this every single morning. What do I trade? 10-minute uptrend over VWAP, okay, where price candles and the trend are peeling away from VWAP. This is the same thing. I am boring. I don't know if you know this, but I'm really boring because I do the same thing every single day. I'm boring. But you know what? It works. Okay? It works. I'm boring, but this works. I just do the same thing every single day. 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. I love it when it's peeling away from VWAP. It's a beautiful thing. There's profit. Anytime you see price action, you know, peeling away from, there's opportunity. There's opportunity. There's more opportunity. There's opportunity. There's opportunity. All of this, when you get price peeling away from VWAP, this says, okay, just picture this. This is VWAP. This is what the shares should be selling for, or the indices should be selling for. But the market, all right, Wall Street says, Wall Street thinks it's worth more. So they're willing to pay over and above what it should be selling for. That's the average price, or close to it, okay? But here's Wall Street. They think it's worth way more than the average price, and they're buying it up. That's a clue that there's institutional buying, because you and I, we cannot move this index like this, okay? This takes institutional buying, okay? That's what it takes. And then you want to ride right alongside the institutions. Whatever they're doing, we want to be doing, okay? If they're buying, I want to be buying, right? If they're selling, I want to be selling right alongside of them, okay? So there's SPY. There's the opportunity. I'm boring. 10-minute uptrend. That's all I ever trade. I'm so boring, all right? And then that's all we trade. And that's how we do it every single day in the BYOB Trading Room. Now, there's days when it just chops back and forth. We don't make any money on those. Sometimes, hey, let me just say it, sometimes we lose some money when it gets choppy like that because we get duped, all right? But those are the days you want to find out quickly. If you see price moving back and forth over VWAP 2 or 3 times before noon, hey, that's a red flag. You know, might be a chop day. Wait for this thing to break out, okay? So that's when you stand down. But when you see price rip away from VWAP like this, all right, there's opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Okay, so there's SPY. Into the close, 10-minute uptrend into the close. All right, let's take a look at 2-hour chart. 2-hour uptrend into the close. Daily chart. Okay, higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the 17. That's bullish. Whenever price closes over the bullish trap and over the rising 17, that is a bullish environment. Okay. Now, how do we know this is bullish? See the bullish gap up, and the bears aren't filling the bullish gap up. That's a clue. Bulls are in control. Bulls are in control. When you see bullish gaps up that aren't getting filled by the bears, there's your clue. All right, so what do I like? I like a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. I like it when that 10-minute uptrend over VWAP is inside a 2-hour uptrend. That's also inside of a daily uptrend. That's also inside of a weekly uptrend. That's inside of a monthly uptrend, all over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Now, we don't have a weekly uptrend. We almost got one today, almost. We came really close, like a thimble away from it. But we do have weekly candles that are moving up, okay? That's what we do have. All right, so this is price action right here, okay? Here's the all-time high, that pink line. It's the all-time high anchored VWAP. This is the all-time high. You can see how close we came today to tagging. There's just a little bit of daylight there between the all-time high and that candle wick. Can you see that? You can barely see it. You have to squint just to see it because there's not much room left before we start making new all-time highs. Okay, now another clue. We're looking for clues, all right? We're looking for clues. You got consolidation over prior consolidation. That's always a bullish environment. You got price action moving up, holding the higher ground, okay? Okay, that's a bullish environment. Okay? Whenever you got price and price goes up and then gives it up, that's just neutral. Okay? But when you get price to move up and then over to the right, that's bullish. And then it moves up and then over to the right. That's bullish. And I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we move up and over to the right again. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know, but it's really looking good. All right, everything's looking really fantastic. Up and over to the right, up and over to the right. You hold that higher ground. That is a bullish environment, okay? Now, when you start seeing bears filling those bullish gaps, hey, let's take notice of that, all right? In other words, proceed with caution, all right? But it's not happening right now, okay? So just looking for those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, all right? So you can see here is the 2-hour chart. I showed you the 2-hour uptrend, right? See the 2-hour uptrend, okay? See the 10-minute uptrend, okay? See the daily uptrend. Notice the candle is up over the yellow 3 EMA, and both the candlestick and the 3 are on top of the 8, and they're all rising up over this. See these green dots? That's the 17 EMA rising up over that. Okay, that's all bullish. All right, so there's the daily chart. That's bullish and in an uptrend, okay? 2-day chart. Look at this. Look at all the green 17 balls right there. That's bullish. We're still in a downtrend. Hold on just a second. All right, I'm back. All right, so as soon as we make an all-time high, all right, we have to make a higher high, and that's the first high over the 17. So as soon as we make another higher high right there, that negates the downtrend and converts the uptrend. Notice there's no highs up there over the 17. And we haven't had a pullback with a higher low. So, but the good news is, look at this. We're moving up. See all the green candlesticks? We're not moving down, we're moving up. So right there, that will negate the 2-day downtrend, but the big news is price is moving up. Same thing on the 3-day. Got to take out the all-time high. Again, price is moving up. It's a pullback in a 3-day downtrend. Okay, on the weekly chart, same deal. All right, a pullback in a weekly downtrend. Nice thing is, no, we don't have a weekly uptrend per se. All right, but we do have weekly candles that are moving up. See the green 17 EMA candlesticks are moving up. So that's bullish. Okay, so what am I expecting? All right, I have a map here of what I'm expecting on the daily chart. I'm just going to share it if I can find it. All right. So Wall Street bought the dip right here. This is the dip. Wall Street bought the dip. Now, Wall Street typically likes 2 reward for 1 risk. So I'm going to be conservative. This would be 1 risk unit right here because this is the dip. They bought the dip, all right? So 1 reward unit, all right? 1 reward, and they usually like 2. They're just like us. They're just like us, traders. They want 2 reward for 1 risk. So here is 1, I'm being conservative too. There is 1 reward for 1 risk would take us up to 655.90, and that's conservative. Okay, now they usually like 2. All right, so there's a possibility. Now I'll be tickled if we get up to 655. Okay, they usually like 2. All right, so this 2 would take us up to 737, just about right up there. Okay, that's huge. And the market moves in synchronicity. Oftentimes, whatever happens on one side happens on the other side. Okay, so just saying, there's a possibility for 650, 700. Now, we may not stay at 700 for long, maybe for 2 or 3 hours, and then we start making our way back down, just like we only stayed down here for 2 or 3 hours before making our way back up. It will oftentimes mirror what happened on the southern side. Okay, right now market's bullish. You can see the price action is looking good. Okay, so just want to share that there's a possibility for that to happen. Now we got some catalysts that could probably make that happen. We do have Mr. Powell talking about rate cuts. He has scheduled 2 before the end of the year. That would definitely help inspire the market. All right. We do have some trade deals that have to be negotiated. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some free trade between some of our neighbors and our trade partners? That would be awesome. In other words, no tariffs on anybody. You don't have a tariff on us, and we don't have a tariff on you. That would be nice to have some free trade. That would help inspire the market right there. So there are some catalysts out there that could get us up there. And then in addition to that, maybe no more killing over there in Europe and the Middle East, okay? That would be nice, okay? That would help to sell things rather than having a war zone. You can't really stock the shelves in a war zone, all right? Now, when you end war, okay, now you can start stocking the shelves and people can start living again, all right? So maybe peace in the Middle East, all right, would be a beautiful thing as well. We're trying to get those things accomplished. We'll see what happens, all right? We may fail, all right? I'm just going to say it might fail. It's never worked in, 100 years, maybe 200, maybe since Christ was born, all right? It hasn't seemed to work over there, but it would be nice to have 50 years of peace, all right? We'll see what happens. All right, so there's SPY. That's what my projections are. All right, enough about that. We did the game plan. I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. I'll hit it real quick here. Okay, what do I like? I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, breaking away from VWAP. This is shared with you in the traders in the room. 10-minute downtrends under VWAP, breaking away from VWAP. I like Friday expiration options. Okay, now next Friday is July 4th. So there'll be 7 days till expiration Thursday options, all right? Instead of the normal 8 days till expiration Friday options. So I like Friday options, unless of course it's a holiday on a Friday. Okay, and in which case I like Thursday, all right, because that's when the week ends, all right. And I like them $5 to $15, the strikes out of the money. I also like the strikes on the increments of 5. So if price is trading around 610 or 611, I like 605, 610, 615, 620, 625. You get the idea. $5 to $15 out of the money on the multiple of 5. Okay, that's what I like. All right, those are the options that I pick time and time again. Now, these $5 to $15 out of the money, okay, they're not going to give you the performance that a 0 day till expiration in the money option will give you. That will give you penny for penny performance most of the time, all right? But you're not going to have, it's also going to increase your risk, okay? When you have 0 DTEs and you want the penny for penny performance, you also expose yourself for a lot of risk. And for that reason, I don't want to expose for a lot of risk, so I choose the $5 to $15 out of the money. So that was the trade today. Here was the 15-minute box that we opened up with right here. And that was the breakout of the box. And I said, observing. This is my morning posting right on the chart. Observing for a breakout over the overnight range. We marked off the overnight range. Price over 609.42 is our entry. You can see I bought the entry, obviously, with the profits that I've shown you. All right, so there it is. I mean, we do this every morning. Block off the first 15 minutes, block off the overnight range, and look for a breakout and a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. That's what we do every day, time and time again. We're boring. That's what it is. We're boring. We just do the same thing over and over, and we're boring. But everybody loves it here. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. Everybody loves it here. Okay, because we're boring. All right, so there's SPY. All right, let's take a look at QQQ. All right, QQQ on the daily chart. I'm just going to hit the daily charts because I want to move it along. All right, so I'm going to push this up. I'm going to push this up if I can find it right there. Okay. New all-time high for the QQQ. See that? See the daylight over here? That was the all-time high. This is the new high. Okay? Now we got daylight over here instead of over here. New all-time high for QQQ. It doesn't get any more bullish than that. Okay? It says it all. New all-time high today. All right? It just doesn't get any more bullish than that. New all-time high. Let's take a look at FNGU. All right, here's FNGU. There's the all-time high. Higher low, higher high. Closing over a bullish trap. That's always bullish. Closing over a rising 17. That's always bullish. Closing over all-time high anchored VWAP. Always bullish. This is the quadrants. And if you notice, we're up in quadrant 4. All right, anytime you're up in quadrant 4 or in the upper third, that's bullish up there. You're over the uptrend line, that's bullish. We're making higher lows, we're making higher highs. Okay, that's an uptrend. As long as price is moving up, that's bullish. Okay, so there's FNGU. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Try it again, Diamond Dow. Look at price action move up, hold the higher ground over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Okay, that's bullish. Higher low, higher high, closing over the trap, over the flat 17. That's bullish. Quadrant 4, that's bullish. Making higher lows. Hey, look, making higher highs. New rally high for Diamond Dow right there today. Okay, that's an uptrend. That's bullish. Diamond Dow, bullish and in an uptrend. Looking good. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM pulls off a bullish engulfing. See the red candle? Notice the price action engulfs all of that red candle. Okay, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap, over the flat 17. That's bullish. Did we make a higher high? Not yet. All right, but we did make the higher low. Okay, looking for the bulls to get inspired, make the higher high. All right, they're putting the work in. Let's see if they can get if the effort pays off. All right, they're obviously putting the work in. We'll see if the effort pays off. Price target B for IWM, all the way back up here at the all-time highs. With all the inflation that we've had, I really foresee price eventually. First target would be up here, 230. All right, that's my target. First target's 230. Second target's going to be up there on that wick, taking out the all-time high. I can really foresee, and you know what? If we do get tariffs, that's going to inflate everything. And whenever you get higher prices for the same products, that's going to bring in more revenue. I know it sucks for the consumer, but for the investor, that means that company that you've invested in is just going to sell the same goods and services for more money now. All right, so they'll be bringing in more money on the top line, and if management's got its act together, that'll transcend to the bottom line, which equals more earnings per share, which means they'll get a higher price point. All right, so first target right there, 230, Mel. Second target up here, 244. All right, so IWM, that's bullish. Look at the consolidation over the consolidation. That's bullish. Look at price move up, hold the higher ground. That's always bullish. IWM. T2122, look at us. Spent the day in the buy zone. I kind of called that this morning. I was looking for price to spend the day in the buy zone on T2122. Here we are, made the higher low, spent the day there. Even made our appearance inside the overbought zone. Maybe we're in the overbought zone all day tomorrow. We'll see. All right, tomorrow's Friday. Anything could happen. It's options expiration Friday. Excuse me. All right, so price action up here in the buy zone all day. Camped out all day. Made the bears uncomfortable. T2123, 15-minute chart. Okay, you look, green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Okay. Rally high, new rally high for T2123. Up over the 200 SMA. That's always bullish. Making higher lows. There's a low. There's a low here. Making higher lows. Look at, there's a high. There's higher highs. So new highs. So that's an uptrend. So that's bullish. All right. Look at the consolidation over the prior consolidation. That's bullish. Okay. So we're looking for up here. Right up there, all right? T2123, 15-minute chart. That's bullish and in an uptrend, all right? 3-bar chart, all right? 3 more green candle bars. Look at the separation between the candle bars and the 17 EMA. I like that. I want to see more of that, all right? Price making a higher low and price making a higher, or the data making a higher high. Up over 200 SMA, flat 200. That's bullish. Here's a prior all-time high. There's a prior all-time high. We're about to knock out the second prior all-time high. And then the goal is to get up here and make a higher high than this hump right there. See that peak? Okay, notice price went up and then gave it up. Okay, so we want to, price went up and then gave it up. That's neutral. But when you go up and you give it up and more, that's bearish. And that brought us down here. Okay, so now we're coming back up here. I like to take out that peak up there. That's what I'm looking for. All right. You can see 3-bar chart is definitely bullish and in an uptrend. All right, let's take a look at FNGU. Look at this. Bullied all day. Green from the beginning to the end. No martini lunch there. All right. Everybody bullied from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Now we watch FNGU because it's got 10 of the most heavily weighted securities inside QQQ and SPY. When those 10 move as a pack, they can drag that whole index right along with it, regardless of what the other securities are doing. Pretty much they will drag that index right alongside it. So they're going to move up. Believe me, usually the SPY and the QQQ are going to move up with it. You can see price over the 200 SMA. That's beautiful. That's always a bullish thing. Look at price making a higher high. Again, we got, look at this bullish gap up. There's your clues, people. Bullish gap up on the one product right there that drags the indexes higher. Okay, bullish gap up, not filled by the bears. Over VWAP, love it. All right, there's your clue. be bullish. Look for those 10-minute uptrends over VWAP and jump on those. Okay, that's FNGU. All right, let's take a look at a few sectors and we'll wrap this day up. I'll take a few questions. All right, let's start with XLE. All right, and we're going to look at this on the daily chart. Okay, look at XLE went up and then they gave it up. That's that geopolitical spike that we had. Couldn't quite hold over the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, but not a bad day today. All right, higher low, higher high, closing inside a bearish trap. That's bearish. Closing over the 17. That's kind of bullish. So those two cancel each other out. That's kind of neutral. You can see we're over downtrend line 1, but under downtrend line 2. Those two cancel each other out. That's kind of neutral. All right, you can see price action has attacked the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, that's kind of neutral. We're not over it, but we have attacked it. All right, we're right here at the midpoint of the quad lines. You can see price action has moved down, all right, and has given it up. All right, we went down and we gave it up. That's just neutral right there. Okay, now when we give it up and more, we start making higher highs up here in the upper third. That's going to be bullish. Okay, so we're just neutral through here. Okay, we're not in the lower third. We're not in the upper third. Just neutral here on XLE. All right, we're still underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, let's take a look at some of the products of XLE. Let's take a look at USO. Again, they went up and gave it up. You can see it clearly. They went up into quadrant 4 and gave it up. All right, so that's just neutral right there. Okay, you can see price action up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's kind of bullish, really. We're on the bullish side of the midpoint. That's kind of bullish. We're making higher lows and higher highs. That's bullish. Problem is we're not holding the highs, all right? You need to hold the highs, and we're not doing that, okay? Instead, we're getting a harsh pullback right back to the midpoint, all right? So it's just kind of neutral. Had we been able to hold that higher ground up there in the upper third, okay, if we had been able to hold in the upper third, that would have been bullish. We couldn't get it done, and we're not bearish enough down here under the lower third to be bearish. So we're just neutral. We're floundering around here trying to find our footing. All right, so that's where we are with USO. UNG, let's see where UNG went today. Okay, so USO neutral. All right, but acting bullish. All right, UNG. Okay, UNG, look at this. We got a low. See the low below the 17? We made a lower low. We had an uptrend, but we made a lower low. So now we have a downtrend. Okay, we just lost the uptrend today. Okay, because they made a lower high, lower low. They closed under a bearish trap. That's always bearish. Closing under the 17, that's pretty much always bearish. Underneath the 12-month high, or actually an 18-month high, anchored VWAP, that's bearish, okay? Closing under the uptrend line, that's bearish. Closing in the lower third, that's bearish, all right? And we're showing a head and shoulders pattern, okay? That's the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and all of this crown right up here makes the head, okay? So that's bearish right there, okay? That's not a bearish candle, but in position to every other candle in the lower third, that is bearish, okay? But that's a nice looking candle. If I was a bull, I'd like to see all my candles look like that, as long as they made higher highs and higher lows. But that's a nice looking bullish candle, but it's on the wrong side. You see, if it had made a higher high and a higher low, that would have been really nice. But gapping down and not notice we gapped down, all right, and the bulls didn't fill the gap. That's showing you right there that the bears are in control. Might have been a bullish candle, but the bears obviously have control of UNG at this time. So that's bearish. All right, let's take a look at precious metals, GLD. All right, we're up here and up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. We're holding the higher ground. That's always bullish. We're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish over the uptrend line. That's bullish. Okay, gold. That's still bullish up here, okay? We're not moving up, but hey, we're cooling off. I mean, we really had a nice rally up to 300, okay, to make new all-time highs. All right? If it needs to cool off for 2 or 3 months, sometimes that's what it takes before we can make higher highs. I notice we are setting up an inversion head and shoulders pattern. That would be the head, left shoulder, and we're making our right shoulder right now, and it's a possibility we clear that neckline. You can see that triple top up there. Notice we're not leaving the area after making a triple top. We're still hanging out. So they're grinding away at overhead supply. So looks higher to me, all right, as long as they can hold that higher ground. Now, you may see price slip back to this uptrend line and then bounce right back up in there. That's a possibility in the near future. We'll see, but that's still bullish, and it's still in an uptrend, making higher lows and higher highs. Let's take a look at silver. Silver did well today. Silver, a little continuation. All right, see, that's why I like those candles. See that? All that tail, more tail than body and wick. That's a bullish candle. That's why got to watch for those. Higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap over the 17. That's always bullish. Up in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Over this 12-year high anchored VWAP, okay? 12-year high. That's a 12-year high up there. Okay, up in quadrant 4, it's bullish, and in an uptrend and moving up, that's always bullish. Silver's bullish and in an uptrend. All right, let's take a look at SMH. SMH getting closer and closer to making a new all-time high. All right, or challenging the all-time high. Look at that, quadrant 4. That's bullish, moving up, hold the higher ground, move up, hold the higher ground. Maybe they do it again, move up, hold the higher ground. I'm all for it. SMH, daily chart, that's bullish up there, quadrant 4. Okay, I like that. XLK. Okay, XLK, new all-time high for XLK, just like QQQ. Okay, technology leading the way with new all-time highs. Look at that. Doesn't get any better than that. I don't think I can say anything that's more important than a new all-time high. Let's take a look at XLF. XLF, what do we got here? Making a higher high. That's an uptrend. Up there in quadrant 4. Look at price move up, hold the higher ground. Okay, notice they're not giving it up. All right, they're holding the higher ground. Okay, looking for price to probably move up and consolidate over prior consolidation. That's what I'd be looking for in XLF. Looking good here over the all-time high anchored VWAP up in quadrant 4 and in an uptrend and moving up. Anytime you close candles over that bullish trap over the 17, that's bullish and you're in an uptrend. And you just made another high. There's a new rally high for the XLF. Amazing. Nice work, XLF. IYT. Transports, struggling, but putting in the work, okay? They're struggling, but they're putting in the work. Like to see those efforts pay off, all right? Price moving up over to the right. That's bullish, up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's this pink line, okay? So that's bullish. I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to say they're in the upper third. I'm going to say they closed in the upper third, so that's bullish up there. And I like the idea that they're over the all-time high anchored VWAP. I like the idea that they're over the 17 EMA, closing a candle, like they're over the trap, bullish trap at that. All right, that's bullish. I just need to see them hold this higher ground and start grinding up. All right, IYT bullish and in an uptrend, making higher lows. There's a low, there's a higher low. All right, there's a higher low and making higher highs. So that's IYT. That's in an uptrend. Take a question, Mel. Just curious. Do we think we will do a slight pullback before we attack the new highs, SPX, SPY? I think they're going to do it tonight, Mel. I think they're going to do it in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. That's what I think. I don't know. I think we need to consolidate. I would look for consolidation. underneath the all-time highs. I'm sure there'll be a lot of sellers right at the all-time high. So it might be a chop day tomorrow where we just put in a grinder box where we just grind it overhead supply over there. That's kind of what I think will happen. It will be interesting to see T21.22 will look like now. Well, today it spent the day in the buy zone and it made an appearance inside the overbought zone. Okay, so that's that. Jim, need to run and have an errand. Thanks, Jim. Jim made 7 goals. Love it, Jim. Way to go. Mel, what would my price target? I gave you that. Again, 230 and then 244 for IWM price targets. Evaluation of Tesla, please. Absolutely. Let's go back over here. TSLA. Hey, and then we'll hit the map, okay? On the daily chart, okay, Gene? All right, this one's kind of busy, so I'm going to pick up a new one. All right. See this valley between the two peaks? That's often a target, so I always put a line right there. Okay. Now notice they didn't quite tag that low. Okay. See the daylight up there? That's not good. It's better when they spike it. You got like a down. You got downtrend line 1. All right. Let's just look at that. That does exist, all right, and that's broken, and that's a beautiful thing, okay. But there's nothing to say that there's not a downtrend line 2 that cuts right across there, okay. All right, I'm just pointing out the obvious. Don't shoot the messenger, okay. There could be a downtrend line 2. Sometimes you break downtrend line 1. Only to run into downtrend line 2. All right. I would want to break this to be bullish, and that would be downtrend line 2. You are setting up kind of a cup and handle here. It's a very unorthodox cup and handle. Don't know whether they'll be able to make it up to that 375 area. They're struggling. We just made what looks like an exhaustion candle right there. See this move down? That was the biggest red candle in the move down with no follow through right into support. Notice it was right into support there, okay, with no follow through. So that was a good sign, but we still haven't made any higher highs. Now we're putting in the effort, okay, but sometimes it's just not enough. All right, sometimes it's just not there. And that could be the biggest green candle at the end of this move back up. So this is kind of going to probably trade out in a pennant right now, like kind of a triangle. And I would kind of wait for that to break out, and I would find something more better to trade. Unless, of course, you're holding it, okay? And I would need to see what happens from here. Bear in mind, you do have downtrend line 1. Downtrend line 1 has been broken, but downtrend line 2, you can't deny it, still exists here, okay? And we didn't get through it, and we didn't make the higher high, and we are pulling back to the uptrend right here. All right, so I wouldn't want to break this uptrend. All right, if I was holding a position, I would not want to break the uptrend. Okay, which is right here, and that's you can see you got a higher low. All right, you made some higher highs. You got another higher low, but right now we failed to make that higher high. So you can see we ran into some resistance right there at 355. All right, so I'd want to climb up over 355 and then eventually over over 375. Okay, so all of this is resistance up there. And you're struggling with it right now. Okay, on that, Gene, you got a high, you made a lower high. So you're still in a downtrend here, but you're in a little daily uptrend. That's kind of not working right now. Okay, because you failed to make a higher high. But who's to say that they're done? They could revisit it, all right, and make that higher high. So you're still in this uptrend and you're still in this downtrend. So you're in this pennant. You're in a triangle waiting to break out of that resistance overhead or this support underneath. You get diagonal support, diagonal resistance right there, okay? Judy, thanks, John. We traded slightly different products. Yeah, we did. That's no problem there. SPX, XPY, but your analysis, yes. The analysis, yes. We trade, Judy trades SPX, and it's the same chart, whether you trade SPX or SPY or even ES, all right? I'm going to tell you, the charts give you the same candle bars. If you're SPY, you can see green, red, green, 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 green. Okay, now watch what happens when I go to the 10-minute chart of SPX. You can see green, red, green. That one should have been green, but it was red. But for the most part, the candles and the move are all the same, for the most part. And she had a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP to trade on SPX, just like I had on SPY. You can see that right there. Okay, so same thing with ES. If you look at ES, the 10-minute chart for ES will look exactly the same. So a lot of times I trade ES at the same time, futures, as on the S&P 500, as I'm trading my options at the same time. Because a 10-minute uptrend in the SPY will result in a 10-minute uptrend in the MES. That would be the S&P 500 futures. Where are you anchoring my VWAP to? So Don's asked me where I anchor. I like to anchor it to highs and lows, all right? So let me just go back to SPY because that probably has the most anchored VWAPs on it, all right? So on my rally highs, okay? So my prior one was on this rally high. See the rally high for SPY? So that was my previous anchored VWAP right there. The all-time high, okay? I like to put one on the all-time high, which is right here. Okay, so I like to put one on the all-time high. And I like to put one on the 2025 low, okay, which would be right here. But if you notice, the 25 low and the 2025 high wind up being the same spot. Okay, so I don't use that one because it's gonna react the same and it's gonna give me almost the same data. So I take that one off and I just use this one. So here's the rally high, and you can see we're up over the rally, the prior rally high anchored VWAP, and moving up. All right, and so I would put one on the consolidation low right here. This would be my next one, is on that consolidation low right there. And I would take this one off because we're making new highs, and I would leave this one on. All right, so all-time high, which we're about to make a new one. The consolidation, the first consolidation low right here. Okay, right there. That's on May 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, does that help, Don? Right now I'm following my map. Here's my map, okay? And this is what we've been doing. Where are we now with the map? Okay, you can see we went up, came back. There's the consolidation. There's the first wave of consolidation. This is the second wave of consolidation. Okay, and then we rip through there. And that's where we were last night, before today happened. And guess what happened today? Yep, just like that. Okay, so I'm looking to make some new all-time highs and then some. Maybe up to 620. 620 would be a logical target. All right, that's what I'm looking for. So that last one can come off. Okay, you can see where we are. All right, that's where we are on the map right now. So I'm looking to go higher. And we may create consolidation again over prior consolidation. That's likely to happen. After we hit the all-time highs, we may put in another grinder box on top of this grinder box as we chew away at overhead supply from other people that are probably interested in selling at the all-time highs. So it may take a couple days to get through it. And then again, we might slip right through it tomorrow. We'll see what happens. All right. Remember, when we were here before, we didn't stay here long. Okay. So there's sellers up here. So we will probably run into the same pack of sellers again at the all-time highs. All right. Does that make sense, traders? So I haven't been using the VWAPs because I've been following my map. And my map's been pretty much very close to what price has been doing. And I think a lot of traders in the room have been following the map and making money with the map. All right, so that's that. All right, that's it for me for today. All right, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today. I want to thank you. Congratulations on your profits. I'll see you guys all tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you so much. We'll do it again. All right, let's see what tomorrow brings. All right, we're still bullish. I wouldn't doubt it if we're up at the all-time highs tomorrow morning when we wake up. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great evening. Thank you.